What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Powered by Primus. And in today's video, we'll be doing a deck profile video on Devastator. Lots of people have been asking me to see this new updated list, so I wanted to give everyone, obviously, the list. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is a lot of people have been asking me about how I managed to have these characters in this, and then also into here. Well, I also have clearly two different versions. I did buy multiple boxes, and it's because of work overtime and a couple other cards that were in the list. So I do have the little guys all sleeved up individually, folded, and then I also have obviously the big characters in there as well. Now, another thing you can do is go over to etsy.com/Forward of Souls, and you guys can go check out and pick up these hard pieces that you can use for combiners. He has Autobots and Decepticons, and then obviously you can slide this back and forth to tell everyone which mode that you are currently in. These things are super awesome as well, so that is another option. Now, this is a very different version of this deck. This deck is definitely a very aggressive, extremely heavy orange. I think currently it only has 3 blues into the list, but we're going to get into all that later on. But it is very, very aggressive. It is designed to take advantage of the fact that it is a 6 wide, and that it can have up to, and does have, 6 attackers. Really flipping into Devastator is kind of a plan B when it does come to the list. Something very similar to the Optimus Maximus, if you do know about that, is if you need to get an insane amount of damage, or if you've pretty much already locked up the game or need to just really get yourself out of a really bad pickle, being able to flip over Devastator is definitely a possibility with the list. It is super awesome. Your real goal in this list is to get your tower and your height counters to 6, but if you can get it to 10, then obviously that is going to be really good. For the more that you do have on here, the more perks that Devastator is going to have once you get him out, if you get him out. Now, the first one is going to be when you do combine and create Devastator, you get to heal based on how many height counters are going to be on this. So if you do get to 6, he's going to heal 6 based on whatever characters are KO'd. And then if you have 10, whatever the case may be, you get to heal that, which is really awesome. The next thing about it, and the main one, is to get your height counters to 6. Now, in order for you to do that, you have to scrap a few cards. We're going to get into all that here in just a minute. But once you get to 6, then you're going to have Bold 2, which is really, really powerful, especially when it comes to this list, is that you're already sweating in for 6. Bold 2, you're going to be able to flip a bunch of oranges, and we're going to be dealing an insane amount of damage with Devastator. And then finally, if you do get your height counters to 10, then Devastator's base attack goes from 6 to 10, and then he has 10 Bold 2, and then there's pretty much nothing that's going to be able to start surviving big hits from this character here. Now, in order to get these height counters, you have to have Scrapper in this mode, and it says whenever one of your other constructicons is KO'd, or this is KO'd, then you get a height counter, which is super, super nice. Again, this deck has very, very little blues, so usually your characters will be getting one shot by your opponent almost every turn, seeing as how they have very little armor and very little health as well, and that is completely okay. These guys are definitely kind of suicidal with this list. You're going to be attacking for a bunch, and it's okay if you do lose 1 to 5 characters before making Devastator. It's actually pretty preferable. The other way that we're going to be getting height counters in this deck is through the character cards themselves. The other ones, other than a Scrapper, he does not have the ability, but these guys do, is that when they attack while they are in alt mode, you can scrap a card and add a height counter as well, which is really, really nice. The way that I usually handle this deck is turn 1, I'll always flip Scrapper, and then I'll always throw out a character in alt mode, obviously, scrap a card if I need to, if I have a card to scrap, get the height counter, and then on the following turn, I will then flip this character to its bot mode to obviously help us get to that Devastator, seeing as how you have to have all of the characters in bot mode, and then I will attack with another alt mode character, and then scrap, wash, rinse, repeat until you're to the point when you need to get Devastator out, or if you've locked up the game without even having to flip to Devastator. Now, I do have one exception to the rule when it does come to always attacking with a character in alt mode, is that was when it comes to Long Haul. Now, Long Haul does have Bold 1 built into him, which is really nice. All of the characters have the same stats on both sides as far as attack, or for bot mode and alt mode, so it is nice with this guy having that Bold 1 if you need it. I still will always try to attack with them in alt mode to be able to get that scrap ability, but if you can't, or if you really need that 1 extra bold, or if you play a power punch or a supercharge, which we'll get into here in just a minute, and you need that big, huge, bold attack, or you know that you're close to the bottom of your deck and you know you have a bunch of double oranges in there, then this might be an option as well to flip into this mode to be able to attack. Some of the other characters have like Pierce and stuff like that. Not really extremely relevant, seeing as how we're doing a bunch of damage when it does come to stuff throughout this. Some are even vanillas. And then we even have Tough, which clearly isn't going to do anything for us, seeing as how we are extremely heavy orange. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is upgrades, seeing as how that is going to be a lot of the really important cards in the deck. So we're going to first have Power Punch. It is an orange battle icon. Again, we're going to be really heavy orange in this list, and then it does give the upgraded character Bolt 3. Yes, this does get scrapped at end of turn, much like a supercharge. However, it is a weapon, which is really nice. What you really want to be doing with this list is trying to really pump out as much damage as you possibly can when it does come to attacking each turn, seeing as how these characters do have very low damage on a base stat. So being able to get things such as Bolt to really amp up how much damage you do is very important. It's really important to try to have a weapon and an action every single turn. Not completely needed, but the weapon is definitely going to be a very important part, seeing as how the majority of the damage is going to come from these cards. The next one coming in, and it's kind of going to be an obvious one, is just going to be Improvised Shield, because it is a double orange battle icon card. We're never really going to be playing it for the tough one, seeing as how we don't have that many blues in the deck. The tough one's definitely not going to be very beneficial to us. It is a double orange battle icon card. Again, those double orange getting us extra damage. Next card coming in as a 2 of, because it is such a good card, is going to be Bashing Shield. It is an orange battle icon card, keeping with the aggression, and then it is also a green battle icon, which does make this card really powerful, because you get to fish it out whenever you really need to, if you do flip it when it comes to battling, which is really nice. The +1 armor isn't really beneficial for us. Most of the time your characters will be getting KO'd anyway. There's a few times where they'll last because of this, or you do happen to flip one of your 3 blue pips, but it's really not the point. The point is to be able to break any of those annoying armors that your opponent does have. Tough is definitely a very tough thing for this thing to get through. Obviously, no pun intended there, but being able to break those armors when you need to is really powerful. Coming in as a 1 of is going to be Enforcement Batons, kind of following the same pattern as the Bashing Shield there. It is an orange and a green battle icon card, giving +1 attack, which can be relevant, and then obviously being able to break an enemy weapon, just in case there's something really annoying that they have on their side, or they're pulling off some pretty fun shenanigans or whatever else. This is going to be really nice to be able to break some of those really powerful cards. The next one coming in as a 3 of is going to be Erratic Lightning. Erratic Lightning has an orange battle icon card, and then it does give us +3 and then -1 armor. Now the -1 armor actually is really not that bad, especially in this list. Most of our characters are getting KO'd anyway, and then there are even some times where like -1 here is not going to hurt us, or even in the other times when you really want to go for a good one is putting on someone like Hook, who already has 0 defense, so you're not really losing out. But again, all of our characters are usually getting KO'd on the following attack from our opponent, so it is definitely nothing to worry about. There is a new card coming out with Wave 3 that was spoiled. I'm going to be showing that at the end of this video, because that card is immediately going to be going into this. It's going to make this deck go from really good to really powerful. So we'll talk about that here in just a moment. The next 3 coming in are going to be Grenade Launcher. It's really hard to build a super aggressive deck and not have Grenade Launcher into it. Now it is an orange battle icon card. Obviously it gets scrapped at the end of the attack, which is totally fine because we get +4 attack from it. It is really powerful and definitely has to be a 3 of. Now the next one coming in as a 1 of is Builder's Tools. Now I've tried a lot of different iterations of this deck with running 2, 3 Builder's Tools, and honestly, 1 is really nice to have. You could even go without the 1, but let me tell you why I do run 1. I do run 1 in case you need to get your height counters to wherever you need to get them to. Now you always want to try to get to 6 if you are planning on combining into Devastator, or knowing that you have to combine into Devastator to be able to take out a big character on your opponent's side, or whatever the case may be. So this is really nice to put down, and usually you will get 1 extra height counter from it, playing it on your character for the turn, and then attacking, getting your 1, and then usually that character is KO'd on the attack side back. However, what I usually do with this card is put it onto a character, usually Scrapper, seeing as how he's the last character to really go or attack, because you really want to make sure you're getting the height counters off of him. But I usually will put it on him and then play the Enigma for the turn. Now the benefit behind that is that this does get to carry over to Devastator, and then every time the upgraded character doesn't have to be a Constructicon at that point, because it was put on a Constructicon before the Enigma went through. Every time it attacks, you get to add a height counter, so it's really nice to be able to have on to your Devastator, and that way every time that you attack for a few turns, or even maybe 1 turn, and then if you can get your height counter to 10, well then you go from that 6 to that 10 attack, which is really powerful. I found that 1 is just really good. It's definitely, if you need to get to that 6, then if you're at 5 or 4 but you need to combine, this is a good card to just help you get that 1 extra. And the last card coming in as a 3 of is Security Console. Now, before you freak out and think that I was supposed to use Databad in this situation, I really mean to use Security Console in this list. But let me tell you guys why I absolutely love this card in this list. Now, the first thing, it's a white battle icon card, so when we attack, we get to flip 2 more on attacking, which is really nice. It is a utility, so it doesn't block any of our weapons when we do go to play onto those. And then also it says when the upgraded character defends, you get to draw 1 and plan 1. Now, the planning one here isn't why we have it. I have it because you get to draw a card on your opponent's side. Now, the real benefit to it is that when your opponent goes to attack, you get to draw a card. Once your opponent goes to declare their attack, obviously their turn is going to end at the end of combat. So really that card in my hand just stays into my hand. I'm never really planning it back. Benefits behind these things are avoiding things such as espionage, mirage, sonic scramble, disruptive entrance. There's a lot of hand disruption that's going around all over the place, and this really gets to avoid it. Plus, then when it comes back to my turn, I draw for the turn, and then now even if I was top decking, I have 2 really good cards to be able to scrap if I want to attack. Now, yes, you can use Datapad for the same thing. When Datapad is out and you get to attack, you get to draw a card and then plan. Choose not to do that, and then you can proc one of the Constructicon's abilities to scrap a card. You get really the same effect. However, like I said, for me, this card has been really, really nice to be able to draw on my opponent's side of things, and just allows me that 1 additional card that cannot be messed with by my opponent. It's been a lot of fun, a blast for me. Plus, really, putting a double orange on top isn't really been beneficial, seeing as how this thing tends to do quite a bit of damage. Not to mention, this card is going to get really nice with, again, that wave 3 card we talked about, which I'll get to at the end of the video, is going to be really nice because I'm really going to want to protect it, so it's going to be really nice to be able to go for that with the Security Console. Now, getting into our actions here, the first 3 coming in is going to be Supercharge, orange battle icon card, giving us bold 3, obviously allowing us to flip more cards when attacking. Really, really solid card, definitely a must-have. Next 3 coming in are going to be Reckless Charge. Again, it is an orange battle icon card, so it's helping us out. And then it says that one of your characters gets +4 attack until end of turn, and at the end of the turn, deal 3 damage to it. Again, our characters are always going to be dying to our opponent's attack, so dealing 3 damage to ourselves is actually not a drawback. It doesn't matter. It's not going to change how the combat system would have worked out. And we kind of want our characters to get KO'd so we can help build our height counters. So essentially this just becomes a grenade launcher, but on the action side of things. The next 3 coming in are going to be Treasure Hunt. Now, the main reason behind Treasure Hunt, obviously it's an orange battle icon card, which is really nice, but it allows us to scrap the top 4 cards of our deck and put all upgrades into our hand. It is really easy to run out of your hand in this list. Again, that's why I do like Security Console, is it does help at least refill 1 card, because you usually will find yourself top decking or having 1 or 2 cards in your hand, unless you're going up against an Optimus Maximus deck. And then again, that Security Console is really, really beneficial, but you're probably 100% going to be top decking. And this deck at least is really resilient to top decking, seeing as how usually every card that you draw makes a pretty big difference in the board state with your characters. But this thing allows you to possibly draw 2, 3, even 4 cards if you happen to show 4 upgrades. So it's a really nice to help you refill your hand. Not to mention, even if you do have a decent hand, if you want to go for this, get an improvised shield off of it, and then you can scrap it to a character's attack to get another height counter. It's just really, really good to draw a bunch of cards. Next one coming in, which came with the Devastator deck, is Work Overtime. Now, I will tell you, with no pun again intended, that Work Overtime has been putting in so much work in a lot of different decks all over the place. Benefit behind it is a white battle icon card, so when you do attack and flip this, you get to flip 2 additional cards, which is really nice. But it says if you have fewer than 4 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. So if you have 1 card in hand, you draw 3. If you have 2 cards, you draw 2. And then if you play this as your last card, you're top decking again, like we talked about, you get to just straight up draw 4 cards. So this card does absolutely insane work. It is really, really good in the list. Now, the next one coming in is a 3 of, and is our only blue card in the deck, or sorry, blue pip card in the deck, is Heavy Landing. You get to deal 1 damage to an enemy, and then if your height counter, tower counter, is at 6 or more, you get to deal 3 damage instead, which is why getting to that 6 is so relevant, is to be able to get the 2 extra damage off of this is really nice, and then obviously the bold 2 off of your Devastator. Now, the reason why I primarily run this is because it is a damage card. It's not just because it's a Devastator and you kind of got to run the Devastator cards, because you guys can see Reclaim is not in this list, but I've played this deck a lot. And a lot of characters on your opponent's side can sometimes live with 1 or sometimes live with 2 or even up to 3. And to be able to play a heavy landing mid-game, late game, KO a character that has 3 health left and then to be able to attack your opponent's last character or something is really, really powerful. Not to mention that instead of like a zap, which I considered for this deck for a long time, only dealing the 1 damage and being an orange battle icon, the blue battle icon doesn't really affect the deck. It doesn't really pull anything back from it. I even considered putting in 1 shall stands in here, seeing as how it directly did 3 damage to your opponent and then 3 damage to yourself, which didn't really matter because all of our characters are dying anyway, but it didn't have a pip, which was actually worse than not having a blue pip and still dealing the 3 damage, which is super, super nice. The next one coming in is going to be Peace Through Tyranny, obviously in the list again because it is a double orange battle icon card. There's no way of playing any weird shenanigans with this because in order for you to actually play the card, you have to KO a character that has 6 or more. None of our characters do have 6 or more stars, so you'll never actually be able to play it, but it is a double orange battle icon card. The next card coming in as a one-of is going to be Ramming Speed. Now, we obviously showed off previously that we had Enforcement Batons and Shield Bashes just in case there was anything weird or annoying on our opponent's side, but Ramming Speed is allowed to target obviously any upgrade that your opponent does have, and it's just take out any pesky things that are going around. Seems that a lot of utilities are starting to make a huge pop-up in decks, pretty much all over the board, and there is only a few cards that are able to break those, such as like Crushing Size and some of the other things, but this one, it's an orange battle icon card, and it just allows us to absolutely target anything, so it's just a really nice one-of card to have in your back pocket. And then finally, it'd be impossible to get Devastator out without his Enigma, so obviously we have the Constructicon Enigma, which allows us to create and make a Devastator off of our little characters after they've all been put into bot mode. But if you also do have Devastator on the field when you do play this card, you do get to repair 1 damage from him and then add a height counter. So again, as long as you're at that 6 when you do combine, being able to play this will also allow you to heal for 1, possibly put 1 on top, especially if you do have the builder's tools. You're going to be able to hit that 10, which is really, really nice, although not needed, but definitely very nice. If you do happen to get to that 10 and you're attacking with this list, I mean, you can be doing up to 15, 17 damage in 1 swing. It's usually really, really crazy. Plus, you have quite a bit of health to back you up, so even if your opponent's got a couple of big hits, usually you win the race at that point. Now, the wave 3 card we are talking about is Erratic Energy Grenade. Now, the thing that is so powerful about it, first off, it's got a black battle icon card, which does give us that Pierce 1 if it's needed. It's definitely not in this list for that reason, but it does say at the start of your turn, do 1 damage to the upgraded character. Now, again, most of our characters are going to be KO'd on the opponent's attack. So it's really nice to be able to play this utility card on the character, which does not affect the fact that it may have a weapon on it or you put a weapon on it, however it works out. So when that character gets KO'd, it's actually what you really want. It's going to be really nice, especially how when you throw that character out, it's your only tapped character, you play this grenade onto it, your opponent has to target it. But when they do, and the upgraded character is KO'd, you get to deal 2 damage to each enemy. All of their enemies. It doesn't hurt you at all or any of your characters, only theirs, which is really, really powerful. So I'm obviously going to be including 3 of those into this list because we do want our characters to get KO'd. This thing is nothing but beneficial for us, and doing 2 damage to our opponent is pretty crazy. But I thought to myself, how can that get even crazier in this list? Yeah, sure, we have cards such as Treasure Hunt and Work Overtime to help us draw the card. That's really nice. But I thought I would bring in Reclaim, which did come, again, with the Devastator list. It is a blue battle icon card, which definitely isn't a huge benefit from us, but it says put an upgrade from your scrap pile on top of your deck, and then if your height counter or tower counter is 3 or higher, you get to then draw a card. So we're going to be able to put our grenade back on top of our deck, draw it for the turn because of our tower counters, and then also because this was an action we still have an upgrade for the turn, we play the grenade back on that character that's about to attack again, throw it at our opponent, and now our opponent again has to go after that grenade. So essentially with 3 reclaims in the deck and 3 of these grenades, we're going to have 6 of the grenades in the deck because we're able to fish it back out with Reclaim. It's going to be super, super powerful in this list because it is really non-preventable damage, but it's also damage that your opponent can't calculate. Yeah, you can sit there and go, okay, we're going to take 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, but when it comes to flips, there's a lot of numbers that kind of go random, and yeah, you can guess, but you can never really guarantee how much damage is going to be played out in a turn and an attack and stuff like that. So those grenades are going to do absolutely insane work in this list. So there you guys have it. There is my Devastator deck. It is an absolute blast and is very, very powerful to play, and it's actually really fun to have 6 characters out on the battlefield. We haven't really had anything that ever has reached those numbers. We even haven't had a time when we have had 5 characters out on a battlefield. So even upping it to 6 is really, really awesome, and it is very, very powerful. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video, a like would be greatly appreciated, as it does show me your guys' support. And if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys are subscribed so you guys can get access to all of these videos and much more coming out soon. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.